Welcome to another video by Pharos Technology. Today we're going to talk about setting up combo boxes, and actually the same rules apply to list boxes. So let's get started. Let's go to this form here. It's a contacts form, basic form that you'd fill out for a lot of different sales type organizations and organizations that keep track of clients. There are two combo boxes here that are of interest. This first one here that lists types of salutations that you could give to an individual. And down here, the organization that the person belongs to. Now, the organization data is taken from an org table that this data is kept on each of the organizations that the people belong to. So this basic contacts form allows us to pick and choose the organization that we're soliciting or working with. So let's take a look at these combo boxes and look at how can we get them set up so that they work. So when we hit the design view here, and I look here, I've got a record source called contacts here. Now the record source looks similar when you set up a combo box, but I'm going to now click on the combo box. And when we go over to data, we see the control source here is the field that comes from the control source in the contacts table. So if we look at this contacts table, and I invoked a query just so that I could show you the fields real quick. If we look at that table, we can see that the table has an org ID in it. Now that's the field that's considered the record source for the combo box, okay? So contacts is the record source for the form itself. And for this particular field, the control source here is from that record source. Now, the row source here is the list that I want to use to populate the drop-down list. And so let's take a quick look at that. And what you see here is we have actually 8 fields. We have it sorted in ascending order based on the name. That's the way you want your customers to be able to scroll through the data and choose the data. And org ID here is the leftmost column. And that'll be important for us to know. Being the leftmost column, they count from left to right. And so this is column 1, column 2, 3, 4, so forth on through. Note that here it's a table or query. In this case, it's a query, but it could have been a table. The only reason it's a query is because I wanted to make sure that the one field was sorted, because by default, a field is always sorted on its key field, and the key field was the org ID. So I needed this sorted by name so that they could choose it quicker and easier. Now, the other field that we want to talk about is a value list. So let's go take a look at that one. This one over here is salutation, is a value list, and the values are actually put into the row source here, separated by semicolons. So it's set, and it's pretty much hard-coded. This is what they refer to as hard-coded in a database. The value list then is one way to do it. And then, of course, the table is another way. So let's go back to our other one that we're going to use here. The bound column is column 1. That's going to be that org ID field that we saw on the very left. We're going to limit to the list. In other words, we're going to say the list is what you've got, and that's all you get. And we're not going to allow value list edits. Now, I have a whole video on being able to dynamically add values to the value list or to the list in the query or the data set. If you want to understand how to do it on the fly, how to change this to yes and actually make it work, see that video that I've got listed up here in the corner. Okay, so moving on. There are 3 tabs that you have to touch in order to make a combo box completely work. If you're going to choose yes on the value list, you'll go to the event tab and you'll use this not in list event to capture the addition and bring up the appropriate dialog box and add to the list or the query or whatever you needed to add it to. Otherwise, you're going to go over here to Format. Now, Format, you're going to come down here to the column count. Now, I have 8 fields in that query. The far left field is that org ID field. Now, the org ID field, I don't necessarily want the users to see. What I want them to see is I want to see the name of the company that the person or organization that the person is from. So to do that, I actually hide the field by giving it a length of 0. So you see 0 here at the front. Then you see 1.4, 1.2, 0.7. I regulate the length of each of those to be the appropriate length based on what I have in the data. Okay, so this one's 1.4 inches wide. And basically, you've got to fuss with it a little bit. You'll look at your data, you'll see whether it's too long, too short, and you'll lengthen it or shorten it and get those all correct as you continue to work with it. We're going to not include column headings at this point. In other words, the column headings in the data are probably well self-explanatory enough to not worry about putting the actual column headings. We're going to list 16 of those rows, and we can list anywhere from 8 to 16, 16 being the maximum. And then 5.4 inches wide should be the total of the width that I've designated here. So I can make it 5.4 inches wide as a total combo box dropdown, okay? So all of this is now set up. Now you can see it in form view, and now you can see all these things with, notice the org ID is not at the far left. And then we got 1.4 inches here, a little bit less here, the state, zip code, and USA or Guam. So if we have that box all set up. Now this one, you'll notice it's just one single field. We've made it the length of the field width here, and it shows all of the data there. So that's how you set up a combo box. And a list box is really the same as you set up the same parameters on the property sheet. It's just a different display. So the display on a list box instead will show this list all the time. It'll have the scroll bar here all the time. And so it won't collapse into a single row. So a list box can be useful in that kind of a display where you just select what's on the list, and you can set those up as well. So I hope you've had some value out of this. If you have, hit that like button for me. Would love it if you subscribe to the channel. We're just growing really well, and I hope that we can continue growing and helping a whole lot of people program their Access databases. I look forward to seeing you later. Thanks.